Hello everyone, welcome to Chill Dill Trades, where I make it my job to analyze the market so that you know what's going on. Today we're going to be covering a beloved of the retail trader, PLTR. PLTR has been on a pretty crazy run since the low in May, and we're going to break down where the support and resistance points are on the chart so that we know where to dip buy or maybe sell out of some shares if we own it already. So let's jump right into the chart. And so today we had a pretty decent sized red day at down about 3%. But the chart's still looking really healthy. So the first thing I want to look at is this blue trend line. So as you can see, we've bounced off it multiple times. We pulled away from it, and now we're coming back down to test it. And so this is the first thing I'm going to want to look at tomorrow. I'm going to want to look at if we can hold this trend line. If we can't hold this trend line tomorrow, I'm going to want to look for a hold of this 26-21 range. And there's a couple reasons. One reason is we broke the trend line, which is a really significant break. And we tested this trend line multiple times, this support line multiple times on the prior days. So what we see 2 days of not being able to break above this resistance at 27.49. And then if we break this trend line and test this and can hold it, then that's saying there's still a lot of bullish momentum and still a lot of buyers at this price point. That's going to be what I'm looking at for tomorrow and the next day. If we can break out, let's talk about the upside potential. So if we do break out, if we don't break down, that's an area of maybe a potential dip buy, which is at around 26.21. And if we continue to hold this trend line and move to the upside, we really need a breakout of this price point. And so when we go back in the past, there we go. So when we go out in the past, we have a really big significant resistance here. So the last time we were above that price is back in March of this year. And so there's going to be a ton of bag holders and a ton of resistance at that point. And when we go back further, we see like there's a ton of accumulation around that point. And we tried to break out multiple times before going higher. We said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's like 10, 11 candles that couldn't break above that price. And so this is going to be a significant area of resistance. And that's why we saw it not be able to break right now. The stock is potentially going to need more buyers and more momentum to get through that price point. If you like what you like so far, please sub, join the squad. Gotta throw that in there real quick. And so if we are able to break above that price point, we have a little bit of a range, I would say, until we potentially hit the next resistance. There is kind of a lot of accumulation in the past, in this range, but the next point of resistance, when I'm looking at, is around 29.42. It's kind of in that price. And again, we see it not be able to break out there right above it. We see 2 candles that failed. And so around that price point is going to be the next part of resistance. If we somehow continue to see volume, continue to see upside over the next few weeks, and to give context, I think it's probably going to take a couple weeks for us to get to this 29 if we can get there. And then if we can get there and break out, I would say 31.34 is my potential max for this. And the reason I say that is, one is we have a gap fill at that price. And so when gaps are trending upwards and we continue to see buying momentum, they really are attracted to those gap fills. And so that's what I'm going to be looking for, is around that 31.34 range. That's my personal top, because I don't believe some of these are going to be making new highs in the short term. But look for those 3 potential prices as either areas to sell or areas to dip buy if that keeps coming up and down. For the downside, a couple things we want to pay attention to. So as I mentioned a second ago, we really need to hold this 26-21 range to continue to the upside. And if it does hold it, that's a dip buy zone. And if it breaks below, the next area of support we have is this 25.42. And so what we see 1, 2, 3 candles, 4 candles kind of hitting that price range and not being able to make a decision, and then finally breaking out. So that's going to be really significant support. And even when we go in the past, we see a lot of support around that. We have these 2 candles not be able to break out. We see these candles bouncing off of it and breaking below it at some point. We just have a lot of accumulation. Whenever I'm looking for big areas of support and resistance, I'm looking for these accumulation zones as potential resistance, support, or dip buy when we go there in the future. So that's going to be another dip buy zone. The next dip buy zone is a little bit larger price range. So depending where you bought, I would say this is the area where it's going to either become a stop loss or a dip buy, depending on your buy range. If you bought here at the top when we get that low, you know, you might want to double down, and if that's your strategy of holding on to this, or you know, if you're around here and it starts breaking low, you have to start considering if you want to hold a loss or just break even. But that price we have is 24.12, and this is, I would say, the most significant area of support, and it's because we have so many candles here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-ish candles that were going sideways at this price. And so why this is also significant is some people might consider this the price that might not confirm a lower high pattern. So lower highs, or higher highs I should say, is when we kind of go like this, and we're going to want it to kind of like go like that in the short term to make higher lows. If we kind of go like this and break below that, it might start considering a reversal, a macro reversal for the stock, and that might have been the peak for now. So those are a couple things to look at, and I would say that's why I consider this 24.12 range, or sorry, did I have this right? Yeah, the 24.12 range as a potential dip buy or stop loss depending on your strategy. We also have the 100-day SMA, which is pretty important that we need to hold. So kind of in that range is going to be a pretty important price range for this stock to hold to continue to move to the upside. Again, we have a pretty big gap to the next support line, I would say major support line, which is going to be at 22.70. And this is where if you bought down here, you might be willing to hold it. But if you bought up here, you have to start considering how much money you want to lose on this if it starts to break down. Because we have the 50-day at $23, then we have the support at 22.70. So if we broke below the 100-day and all these other supports, this is going to be an area where you have to start considering, because a lot of other people are going to start considering if they're going to hold on and buy more or sell out of their position. And to finally sum up the dip area is going to be at 20.90. So in my opinion, you can see there's a big candle here, a couple candles here. That's going to be kind of my area if you're holding the stock to kind of like, that's going to be, I would say, the lowest range for a stop loss. But if you haven't bought the shares yet, it might be an area to buy for the first time. Because if we can if the stock, you know, we see a downtrend in the market and it pulls back something like this, and it's able to hold that range and this long-term uptrend line, then that could be a really big significant area of support. But if not that happens and it kind of goes like this and breaks below, we could be headed back to this low, or we could be headed lower in the future. So those are areas to look out for the chart. I think pretty important parts. And so hopefully you got something beneficial from this video. That's the goal. And tell me what you think. Do you think the stock's headed higher? Do you think the stock's headed lower? What's your price targets? Are you seeing something on the chart that I'm not seeing? I'm really curious of your thoughts. I have a ton of other great videos on the channel. I make daily videos, so go and check those out. I've covered NNDM, Plug, Wish, some of the more favorites that I've seen online. And so far, basically what I've charted has come true for most of those, if not all of them. And so go look at those videos and sub and like. All the support's appreciated. The last thing I want to plug is I have a Twitch channel. Me and my buddy kind of both play video games and talk about the stock market. So Saturday nights at 7 p.m. on the West Coast, we play video games while talking about more macro topics that are happening either in the economy or the stock market. And then on Sunday nights, call it Sunday Free for All. All you guys can come in there into the live stream, ask me any of your stock questions, and I'll live chart them as I did in this video. So again, if you made it this far, you're a real one. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you again tomorrow.